Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm doing a review of a piece of homebrewing equipment called the Catalyst Fermentation System by a company called Craft-a-Brew. And they sent this to me for review, and coincidentally I happen to be making a beer here today. So the timing is right. I'm not only going to review this, but I'm going to review it in context of brewing a batch of beer and fermenting it. So if you're interested, keep watching. Before I put this thing through its paces, I just wanted to point out a few highlights of this system already, even before I get started, right? So it comes with a stand. It's a conical fermenter. This thing lifts right on out of here, right? It's empty and it's lightweight, but it's conical, as you can see there. It comes with a nice snap-on O-ring sealed lid with a hole in the top of the middle for your airlock to fit in, right? And it comes with a nice ball valve here that will accept any kind of wide mouth jar. So this is a ball jar that came with it. I can use a bigger one as well, and you can screw it on there, open this thing up, drain the tube, take it off, dump it, put it back on, and collect the yeast and harvest the yeast. I think that's a pretty cool idea, to be able to not only dump your tube and collect the yeast, but do it without having to rack the beer off your primary and into a secondary, or from one carboy to another. It minimizes transfers, exposure to oxygen, possible contamination, right? It's an all-in-one system, which is really appealing to me already, right? So now, once it's fermented, they also give you this nice little bottling attachment that screws on there as well, and you can attach a hose to it and drain it right into your keg or into bottles, whatever you prefer, right? And it's pretty cool. It looks pretty cool around. I'm really excited to put this thing through its paces, so let's move on. Before I can actually use this as a fermenter, I have to wash it and clean it, sanitize it. I've already washed and rinsed it. Now what you're seeing here is about 1.25 gallons of my Star San solution, my sanitizer, that I've already filled in here, swished around like this a number of times to coat all the surfaces. I've used a spray bottle of sanitizer to spray all the corners, nooks and crannies under the lid and everything already. And now the sanitizer's ready to be drained and used elsewhere. So now to drain this, I'm going to close the valve and unscrew it. You lost a little bit there, that's okay. Now I'm going to dump the rest of this into my wallpaper tray that I use to soak all my tubing and siphons and other hoses with. It's looking pretty good. In order to seal this up, I can go ahead and close this again, but I also want to keep the underside sanitary as well, because the underside of this valve is going to be exposed when I open it to ferment. So I'm going to go ahead and put this jar back on once I move this tray out of the way. There we go. Sanitized. Now we can go ahead and transfer this. All right, all the beer is in there. Now it's time to aerate. I got my little oxygen stone and my O2 tank here, so let's go ahead and aerate that. Okay, all aerated. Okay, it's time to add the yeast. What I have here is my yeast starter for this beer. Got it all swirled up. I'm just going to go ahead and add it. Now just add the airlock in there, and now it's ready to ferment. I'm going to move this into a room that's between 60 and 70 degrees and dark, which happens to be my basement. Now we're down in my basement bar, and I'm going to let it sit right here while we ferment this thing. I'm going to come back every couple of days, take some video clips, maybe some commentary to show the progress of how this thing works. I can already tell right now down below here this tube jar is already full. So I'll be changing that probably at least a couple times now, it looks like, from all the hops I put in this thing, right? So stay tuned and we'll follow through this the rest of this process and see how it goes. It's been about 12 to 15 hours since I put this thing down here, and as you can probably see here already, I replaced my airlock with a blow-off hose going down to a bowl full of water down below. I woke up this morning, came down and saw that the airlock had filled up with foam and had been bumped out of the bunghole here and had fallen over. So I went ahead and put the hose in here. Now, to give fair credit to Craft-a-Brew, their instructions say to do exactly this. However, I ignored that advice because my experience has been with my batches of beer for all these years, a 6.5 gallon fermenter, in terms of my glass carboy fermenter, I haven't had to use a blow-off hose ever. It had plenty of extra head space in there so the foam would rise and then fall again. However, apparently due to maybe the geometry of this thing, or maybe some inaccurate labeling, I don't know. But 6.5 gallons in here isn't the same as 6.5 gallons in my glass carboy for some reason. But anyway, no big deal. I just followed their instructions. Go ahead and put the blow-off hose on there. The foam fills up and goes down into the bowl down below. When the foam settles out, I'll put the airlock back on. I'm going to take the opportunity now to go ahead and drain this first glass jar full of trub. I actually have more, it looks like, ready to come down in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this out now. I put a bowl underneath to catch any splashing and dripping going on, and well, here we go. Close the valve. Hold on to the upper piece so when you unscrew it, the whole thing doesn't come undone and spill everywhere. So I'm going to hold the top piece, and then I'm going to unscrew the bottom piece. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to take this out of here and wash it out, sanitize it, and put it back on. What I have here now is the same jar, washed, rinsed, sanitized, and ready to screw back on. Make sure it's snug on here so it doesn't leak. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and open the drain again. And that was pretty easy. Cool. And so it seems I'll have to do this a few more times. It's already filled up already, so this is my fault actually. I put a lot of hops in this batch of beer, and I didn't remove it before I poured it in here. I figured I'd lean on this functionality to drain the trub rather than painstakingly try to filter it out during the initial racking to the fermenter. But hey, that's a positive. I actually love this feature. In the future, I know to use a bigger jar. That's all. Looks like the jar is filled up with more trub, so let's empty out again. Alright, clean, rinsed, and sanitized again. Go ahead and screw this back on. Okay, and open up the latch again. It's been 2 days, and wow, look at this. This thing is really active. Not only is there a lot of blow-up foam, you may be able to hear in the background the sound of the airlock bubbles just causing a mess here in my bowl on the floor here. So this thing's really active. Alright, it's been 3 days, and the blow-off has finally stopped. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace the blow-off hose with a regular old-fashioned airlock. It's been over a week, probably around maybe like 9 days since I dry hopped this thing, and the hops and rest of the yeast and trub had fallen out of here, and there's still a backlog up here, so I'm going to have to go ahead and exchange this jar yet again and purge it probably one more time, and I'll be ready to keg. Beer is all done. It's time to keg, or bottle if that's your thing, but for me it's kegging. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this trub jar and replace it with the bottling attachment. And here's the bottling attachment. Let's go ahead and put this on. It's already been sanitized, so off camera. Make sure you sanitize it. I'm going to snug it on there. Okay. Now I'm going to attach a hose to it. You know, I think this is a 5/16 ID hose. Snug it on there just right. Then I run the other end down to my keg down below. And I am now going to go ahead and open this and see what happens. And there we go. One thing I had to do right away was to pull out the stopper a little bit here. Otherwise it was going to suck all the liquid in my airlock right into the fermenter, so just beware of that. Now you can see here I already used my hose clamp and stopped the flow, but there was still a fair amount of yeast and other sediment in the cone above in the fermenter that still came down even after repeated changes of my tube jar. Stuff was not completely out of there, and I caught it just in time. It was all here ready to start filling up my keg with this stuff, so I turned on my hose clamp, stopped it in midstream, and I am good to go here. But just something to be aware of. Just because you have a conical fermenter does not mean it's going to be trouble-free transfers. Now this thing is supposed to be dishwasher safe, and one of the advantages of washing this thing. But however, to do this, you have to take out your upper rack, and some models like mine have too many tines that don't move that keep this thing from sitting flat on the bottom rack. And the fact that I had to take the base apart, the lid off, and wash those separately doesn't make me feel like I am saving much time and hassle by using the dishwasher. I probably would have been done already if I had already just went ahead and washed it in a slop sink or a kitchen sink. But I'm going to put it through its paces here and give it a go through a wash cycle and see how it turns out anyway. It's been through the dishwasher and it is clean. So that is an advantage of this fermenter, is you can indeed easily wash it, relatively speaking, like I said, with removing the top drawer or the top rack. But hey, that's great. I like it. Overall, very good experience. I like the conical design. I like the ability to remove your tube. I like the ability and the option to harvest your yeast. And because you can remove your tube during this system, you can also, for those of you who use secondary fermenters, it allows you to avoid that entirely and allow you to have everything in a single vessel for the entire time and still allow you to get your beer off the tube. All good stuff. Now, as far as during the operation of this thing, there are some things that actually I think could be improved. For one, this thing was a little bulky, or I'd say a little bulky, I'd say a lot bulky. It was hard to transport from my garage where I brew to my basement where I ferment, through some doors and through some stairs, and it was a top-heavy, sloshy design. It was hard to get a hold of, hard to carry, and and yes, carboys also can be big and bulky and heavy too. But my carboys, I have this thing called the brew hauler. It's sort of a strap system that goes around your carboy with a couple carry handles and allows you to transport this thing much easier through your house and up and down from floor to countertop and vice versa. This system didn't have this, and it was a disappointment. It was actually really difficult and kind of scary at times, where I thought I was going to spill this thing all down the stairs. So if they can work out that problem, it's fine. For now, it wasn't so fine. And let's see what else I got here. And the ability to remove tube is nice. However, because I made a very hoppy beer in this system, I had lots of tube in this thing that required a lot of tube removal steps along the way to remove all of the tube. And each time I did this, I lost a little bit of beer each time. I lost about a ½ gallon more using this system with the tube removal jar than I normally do with my glass carboys and siphoning off the top of the tube. So just something to keep in mind. Do not give up your existing techniques to minimize tube transfer during racking from your kettle. Whether you do whirlpooling or use a mesh screen or whatever you do, don't give up on that. Don't lean on the system for that. Continue your current techniques and then use the tube removal jar to remove what's left over, and that would probably give you a much better experience than what I had in this video. And it's a lesson I've learned, and I'm going to apply in my next videos when I ferment in this thing again. But one thing that really kind of disappointed me the most was the fact that I needed a blow-off hose for the fermenter for the primary phase of fermentation. I got away from using blow-off hoses years ago. by upgrading from a 5-gallon carboy fermenter to a 6.5-gallon carboy fermenter. And I thought I would have a similar experience with this system, as it is also rated at 6.5-gallon capacity. However, as you saw in my video, that was not the case. I still needed a blow-off hose. And I think I can attribute that to a couple things. The geometry being a factor is that this system had a very flat surface. It had very little space between the bottom of the lid and the top of the beer. And with the airlock and the stopper pushed in there, it was almost a guarantee that the foam was going to go up and through the airlock. So I didn't think about that at first, but that's ultimately what did happen. Now with the glass carboys, the capacity, it goes up to the neck of the carboys, or the shoulder of the carboys, and comes up to the neck. And I think the fact that these 6.5-gallon carboys have a little extra capacity in the neck overall, it can hold probably a little bit more liquid than this system did, was a bonus. But also the height difference, that the airlock and stopper were several inches above the surface of the beer in the carboy, compared to about less than a ½ inch or an inch or so in this fermenter, made a huge difference. So that's kind of going backwards, in my opinion, in the brewing process. I don't like blow-off hoses. They're a pain to deal with. You're buying new hoses. You're trying to sanitize and wash these hoses. And I just got away from them originally because of that, and now I have to go back to it. So that was a disappointment for me. I'm going to see if I can make this better in the future, in my future videos here with this system, and see if I can mitigate that better. And I'll do another video and let you know what I thought of that. But for now, it's a strike. Now, as far as cleanup, very nice actually. Once you break this thing down and put the main vessel into your dishwasher, and after removing the rack and so on and so forth, it actually did wash up very nicely without any scratches. And that was originally a concern of mine, that if I had to wash this thing by hand with a sponge or in some elbow grease, I was possibly going to introduce some scratches, which, for those of you who are not aware of the pitfalls of plastic fermenters versus glass, is that plastic is prone to scratches, and scratches are breeding grounds for bacteria, which can survive a sanitation cycle and then taint your future batches of beer. This stuff is made out of something called Titan, which is more robust and more durable. But since I'm only brewing one batch here, I don't know what the longevity of this material is, but it does, from what I read, it is better than most other plastics that are used. But you can skip all that worry, throw it in the dishwasher, and don't worry about it. Just let the dishwasher cycle take care of it, and the risk of scratching is minimized. Now, so who would want to get one of these things? Well, for those of you who ferment in the primary and rack to a secondary, you don't have to do that anymore. This is a way for you to not have to rack. You can actually leave everything in this system and minimize oxygen introduction and bacterial contamination risks by leaving everything in the system and just removing your tube from the bottom. So that's a huge bonus for those of you who insist on using secondary fermenters. You just avoid it altogether, right? And again, I think I said this earlier, but it's a really good system for those of you who want to get into conical fermenters at a more affordable price point. And this is that. It's a good system for that. And I have a very good overall positive impression of this system. I am not going to get rid of it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to use it in my future videos. And I'll probably get more experience with this and do some more follow-up videos on this system as time permits and as topics arise. So in the meantime, if you have a question, make sure you just comment down below in the videos. If you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe. If you like the video, like it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out other videos on my YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe.